So today's show, we're going to talk about Victorian subject, sort of near and dear to my heart, which is the Victorian seance. Let's talk about some of the things that were commonly employed, tools or tricks of the trade of offering a seance that, in most cases, I would consider entertainment as opposed to, private at home, just the family sitting around trying to contact a spirit. But it did become huge and it was very, very popular. So what were some of the things that you discovered that, some of these techniques that were implied or applied?
Obviously, the first one you got to talk about in today's modern age is the spirit board.
Right.
You can go to your local toy store and buy it. So when people think about a seance, I'm sure that you could bring 10 people into a room, say the word seance. 9 out of 10 will probably think of a spirit board as the tool that would be used. Again, I believe that comes down to the Hollywood movies and the TV shows. It's just sort of been put up here in everybody's brains.
I agree.
That is what a seance today is about. But of course, as we know, seances have been around forever. And as I say, it can be as simple as sitting around a table with just your hands on the table. But there's another technique, which I believe is somewhat older, and that is called scrying.
Scrying, yes. I actually scry.
Do you?
Yes.
Yeah. So correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe scrying is when you use a reflective surface, such as a mirror or some kind of a flat surface of water that becomes a portal that the energy can then
manifest through.
Yeah.
Right, and that's true. I mean, for me, I do prefer water. Water is sort of the medium that I like for scrying. I do recommend when people are trying scrying that they use a metal bowl because it does have reflective properties as well as the water being reflective. But there's different ways of doing it. And I know that there's people that, and I've read, just historically that there is also a way of, sort of pouring water down a mirror and using almost this double idea of scrying. And for me,
I've never heard of that being done before.
Yeah.
Combining the two techniques.
Combining the two. For me, I don't know that I would ever do that. I think it's one or the other. The idea with scrying, though, is different than what Hollywood perceives it to be, of course, right? Because in Hollywood, we see people sitting in front, and a crystal ball is also a scrying, tool as well. But we see these, in Hollywood, we see these giant crystal balls and we see these images forming inside the crystal ball. And it doesn't really work like that. It's not to my knowledge or ability, and I'm fairly able at scrying. Generally, it's a focus, and it allows me a place to focus my thoughts. And then I'm going to say 9 times out of 10, it comes to me in my mind's eye, and that's where I see everything play out. This goes sort of the same for water or for a mirror. You can also use obsidian, a sheet of black obsidian, something like that has a reflective surface, and it really is about focus and understanding. So it is different than a spirit board, right? Because generally when you scry, you don't have multiple people doing the same thing within, that energy. I mean, I always scry on my own. I don't invite people to all put their hands in the bowl of water, and we don't do it that way. But it still is something that was definitely a technique at that time as well. And this is where we see, so many different kinds of things come forward. But scrying is certainly something that I've I've used, and it is quite effective. I'm just not sure it's effective as a group of people. And that's just for me, because these are my personal experiences. I can't say what other people's abilities or what they've experienced. But for me, it's sort of a very personal thing if I'm scrying with water or a mirror. And you can even scry with a candle. You use that flame on the candle as your point to focus your energy. Because
Right.
as I say, a crystal ball, all of that, the images don't really appear on the surface or in the water, right? So, yeah. So, what's a couple of the other things that you have found out that?
Well, I have also, excuse me, I've also heard of dowsing rods being
Okay.
being used in seances as tools,
Mm-hmm.
as well as what they're used for in paranormal investigation.
Right. Right. And dowsing rods go back as far as time. The idea of dowsing rods. Um, I was taught as a child to find two willow sticks, or a willow tree
Mm-hmm.
close to the water, and to use two willow sticks as rods. And the reason being this is it's kind of a combination, because willows actually, wherever willow trees are, you will find water, whether it's on the surface of the ground or it's underground. Willows only grow where there's a water source. And so I feel like there's a bit of a combination there. You get the energy from the tree and the energy from the water, which perhaps makes those scrying rods or sticks. You would get like a Y-shaped bough, right? Something not too big, just yay big, like that, and it would branch off into a Y, and you would hold the one end and allow those two, branches to find you water. This was a really this technique goes back hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years. It's written about in medieval texts. It's written about in early records, and I believe even in Roman texts there are mentions of using this kind of thing, right? So very interesting, those ones. What else did you find that struck you as?
What do you think about crystals?
See, crystals for me, I don't really use them for anything. They don't, I just don't, I love them. They're beautiful, but I don't really resonate with the need to use their energy for things, other than maybe a boost up after the fact. Like if I've done something, and I really like iron pyrite for that. For me, it's very grounding. But again, it's really how people utilize their energy in these things, right? So, like I say, in terms of a seance, I don't know that there's anything right or wrong. It's just the person who's conducting or bringing the energy in. If that's what they're doing or what they use, I guess if it works for them, that's really all that matters, right? There's just no, well, no, you shouldn't use that. I don't really follow that kind of belief. I just think that if it works for you, whatever the tool is, use it. Yeah, crystals for
I
me
agree.
during
Yeah.
a seance, I don't really feel the need for them. But that again is my own personal experience. Yeah.
So, okay, another question. Since, okay, you just answered about crystals. What about the use of tarot cards as being a seance tool?
Again, if that is your source for information through divination, I guess that you could certainly apply tarot cards to it, right? You could put those cards down on the table. Perhaps you could ask the energy or the spirit, what do they see? How would they present themselves? And you could draw cards and put them down on the table, and a message could come through that way as well. Right? So again, I'm very open to how you work with things. And for me, I don't use tarot cards. So again, it wouldn't be something that would work for me. Well, it might. I don't know.
You never know.
Yeah. Never know, right? But I'm not a tarot reader. So for me, I would interpret my own messages through those cards. And I guess that's really the idea of any divination tool. You are interpreting your own message through what you're using. But again, I could see that as a tool being used, certainly. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And okay, one more I've got here is just a straight basic channeling that I know of a gentleman who's a very well-known psychic, and what he has learned to do over the years is just to sit in a chair like this and just open himself up, and he will go into a trance, and can use his own body in this trance state as a communication tool.
And that's what I do, but I don't go into a trance. I would not say that what I'm in is any kind of trance, although I've had experiences that are very out of body in a strange sort of way, because I'm actually in the moment as opposed to in my body. It sounds crazy. I'm not actually physically leaving my body, but my mind is now seeing things the way that spirit would have seen or experienced them. So maybe that's a trance. Right. I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I've never really thought of myself going into a trance state, but maybe I should ask people around me what happens to me when this happens, because I don't really know what happens. I mean, I feel like I'm in the moment because I can still, I'm still aware of where I am, although I'm kind of experiencing something different. So I don't know. I don't know. Maybe I trance. I've never really asked anyone. Like I've never, and hey, anyone out there who's been to my seances or do I go into a trance? I don't know. Honestly, I've never really thought, and we don't videotape any seances that we do. I don't do any of that because it's just for respect, out of privacy for people. Messages that come through can be very personal. The experiences can be very personal. So I don't videotape those kinds of things. So if anybody's been to any of the seances that we've held, let me know what happens to me, because honestly, I don't know. I should probably ask my husband. He's usually at them. What happens? I've never really thought about it. So maybe I do go into a trance. I don't know.
Well, if you did, I'm sure you would have some kind of recollection of it.
I don't know though, because I mean, I know what happens in that moment. I know exactly, I'm getting all the information. I can tell, like I can speak as it's happening. I can see it. I can experience it. And I suppose when it's over, there's a moment of sort of, it feels like everything just kind of drains away. And then I'm back in the present. So I don't know. I don't know. I mean, that's the strange thing. It just happens like that. Like literally I'm there, I sit. Sometimes I'll have pre-visitations in a way. I'll have these feelings, or I'll start to get names, or and this could be a day or 2 days, a week ahead of time. And it's like they know. It's like they know that, this is going to be the moment, and I'm going to be their conduit. So